The most highly anticipated game finally here.
Say it to my face, I dare you. I dare you.
Playoff path to playoff Kelsey.
Sack again. I dare you.
All by that one, let them know. Who got the most heart, I'ma show something. Elevated, I've been dedicated, now they telling me congratulations.
We're going to the NFC Championship game. Perfect opening drive. Saquon.
Say it to my face, I dare you. I dare you. I dare you.
17 is a scoring machine.
I dare you. I dare you.
Bills are going to win this football game by the slimmest of margins.
Hey everybody, welcome to Game Day View, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Patrick Claybon back here with Greg Rosenthal and Cynthia Freeland. One game away from the Super Bowl. We got lines, prop bets, predictions, and all without vague references to Al Michaels. We just talk about it, Greg, because that's what we do on this show.
We do. We have picked every game all season long, and we've gotten each one of them correct. Okay, that's done. Totally.
Yeah.
I actually
mostly.
think that we all have we all been collectively wrong? Unconfirmed. I mean, maybe if you add all of ours together, we've gotten them all correct. Probably.
There was one thing we were all collectively wrong on last week.
Oh.
That's because
Ruins
Cynthia's
my theory.
beloved Detroit Lions lost to the Washington Commanders. But, hey, Cynthia,
There you go.
still got the crown in the playoffs, one game ahead of Greg and I, who are standing there at 6-4. So you've got, well, there's some sort of victory, sorry.
Moral victories are not the same as Lions.
I mean, which would you rather have? A Super Bowl trophy? You're not even on the team. Or back-to-back regular season, postseason crowns over us?
100% a Lions Super Bowl
Yeah.
trophy.
For sure. The game of the week going down Sunday night in Arrowhead. It is Josh Allen and the Bills against Mahomes and the Chiefs. This will be another chapter in what has already been an incredible rivalry.
Let's keep this energy. Let's go. Every single play. Everything you got. Everything you got beside you. And let's go find a way to get a win. It's our night. You leave everything out on this field.
At least go south. Come out. Do not hold back. Everything we fought for is right here.
Gonna run a float pass this time. Touchdown! And it's human pyrotechnics dressed in red, white, and gold.
3 touchdowns in the last minute and 45 seconds. Bills have the lead, 36-33, with 13 seconds remaining.
Mahomes looks to throw it. Pump faking right side. He wants it. A comeback. It is caught by Kelsey. Touchdown! Kansas City have won this incredible divisional playoff game.
Going to roll out to his left, nowhere to go. Fires to the end zone. And it's caught for a touchdown. An unbelievable flick of the wrist.
Fake a pass. Now he'll run it. 35-yard line blocker. 30, 25, inside the 20. Chiefs 27, Bills 24, 1:47 to go. And the kick is no good!
Hell of a game, dog. Hell of a game. Hell of a year, man.
And we'll get to our game picks for both championship games later on in the show. First, we're going to break down the matchup, starting with the Bills and the Chiefs. Greg, who was your player to watch on offense in this one?
I think it's Xavier Worthy. We know what we're going to get out of Patrick Mahomes, greatness, and Travis Kelce, greatness. I'm not totally sure what we're getting out of Xavier Worthy, yet the early results in this playoff are excellent. Watch some of the catches that he had a week ago. That throw, when Patrick Mahomes made it, took a lot of trust, a lot of anticipation that his rookie receiver would be there, and might have been the best contested catch Xavier Worthy made in the entire season. He can make plays after the catch. You're gonna use him with some of these short throws, but he really is the one guy on the team that has next level speed that can take advantage of what the Bills defense struggles at, and that I think is team speed at the safety position. I think Worthy is so big for this Chiefs team.
Well, you talked about Travis Kelce, so I'm actually going to take the Travis Kelce torch here. Why? Because in the playoffs, Travis Kelce is ridiculous. If I'm looking at what he's done since 2020, in 14 games, do you know how many times he's exceeded the number that was forecast for him?
How many?
All of them.
14?
14
That's
out of
a lot
14.
of playoff
That
games,
is
period.
100%.
It's honestly the dumbest stat. Of all the Chiefs stats, that's the most ridiculous.
Yeah, we're just going to let that simmer right there. But we're going to also add to that he's had 18 touchdowns in 17 2019 playoff games as well. Last week he was ridiculous, and this is going to be a crazy matchup because if you look at what happens when he matches up against defensive backs versus linebackers, and he's likely to see linebackers in this one, it's like 3 yards more per catch. Ridiculous. Just ridiculous against the Bills.
A guy who hasn't had all that playoff success is a guy that I'm taking. DeAndre Hopkins. I think a lot of attention goes the way of Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce. And so it gives him, the guy who came at the deadline, a chance to work against the Bills. He only ran 19 routes in the game in Week 11. Only got 1 target last week. This thing, though, DeAndre Hopkins has already played against the Buffalo Bills twice this season. Once was with the Tennessee Titans. Once was back in Week 11. That first game, he had 1 catch for -1 yards, and I do think with all of the volume of seeing this defense, DeAndre Hopkins plays a little bit of a factor, especially with all the attention going with the guys that we talked about first. Again, 3 Chiefs that we picked there. Take note of that. Sticking with this game, let's flip it over to the defensive side. Which player do you have your eye on?
Well, we got to give some love to the Bills. Let's talk a little Greg Rousseau, my namesake, although he does have 1 less G than me. So just 50% G, but a lot of sacks. It was practically a 50% pressure rate in that first game against the Chiefs. Now, it's a different left tackle this time around, but Greg Rousseau is one of those defensive ends that wins with his strength. It's not about the moves and bending the edge. And what worked against Joe Thuney, who's stepping in at left tackle for the Chiefs a week ago? I know Greg Rousseau is not Will Anderson, but a lot of it was pure power. And I think Thuney, who's a little lighter, you can push him back. Greg Rousseau, like I said, had a monster game in that first one. And to me, he's an edge setter. He's one of the strongest defensive ends in the league. And that pressure from the left side has really bothered Patrick Mahomes throughout the course of the season. I think it's been a problem for them. I think it will be on Sunday as well.
Well, I'm looking at Terrell Bernard in this matchup. He came back from injury, and it's been a huge uptick for this Bills defense. It's not really about like discrete situational stats. I can't say the word stats. Situational stats. There we go. It is all about his impact as a whole. He frees other people up to be able to get to the quarterback. He allows some coverage help. He really kind of does that all-purpose thing that we need him to do. And in this case, he's probably going to see a lot of that guy, Travis Kelce, we talked about, and he's probably going to have to help out if anything goes over the head of Matt Milano. There's a lot of stuff going on, and with potential injuries to this defense in the secondary, and I'm talking about Taylor Rapp and Christian Benford, who as of right now, we have not seen them practice yet this week. That will be a big defensive difference maker if we can get Terrell Bernard at full speed.
The guy I want to look at is the defensive difference maker as a whole because it's like a black hole that draws attention and has gravity on this defensive line, and that's Chris Jones, who probably would have a Super Bowl MVP in his trophy case if voters value defense. He was doubled on 31.7% of his rushes against Buffalo in Week 11. When he wasn't, he had 6 pressures. 4 of them came in less than 2.6 seconds. And also, remember back, the 49ers had a chance to win the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. They singled up Chris Jones. They didn't even actually block him correctly at all. A game record. Why are you?
Why can't we make a defensive Super Bowl MVP? Give an offense, give a defense, like more awards.
Or
recognize these men.
Let's just take cowardice out of this. If a defensive player is dominating the game, it's okay to give it to the defender every once in a while. Let's get some over/under as we get to the total for the Bills and the Chiefs is 47.5. I've actually got the over in this one, 52. We'll tell you who scores those points later on in the show. But I do not foresee a bit of a rock fight here. We just saw a breakdown of these teams going up and down the field in their playoff history. I like the over here, Greg.
I agree with you. I actually am going way over. It might be too low, but I have 62 points in this game. You might say 62. That's a ridiculous number. It's 15. It's actually less than the average amount of points scored in this matchup in the playoffs between the Bills and the Chiefs the last 3 times they've played. Like, it has been an average of over 63 points. I do think ultimately these defenses aren't as good, and I know the Chiefs haven't been as explosive this year, but I think they're coming around at the right time offensively, that they'll be able to keep up in a shootout. I'm not telling you who's going to win, but I think it's going to be all points all the time.
Well, I mean, you only got to be over by half a point in this case, and I am over by 1.5 points. 49 points is my total in this matchup, so it might not seem like as high of scoring as Greg has it, but I still have the over as well. I'm looking for some really vintage, like, Andy Reid circa, like, preseason, Game 3, back in the day. Who knows? But I'm thinking we're going to see some weird things. And then Joe Brady's out here he's looking for the head coaching job. So I think we're going to see a lot of creativity from both offensive play callers. And like I said, imagine like a preseason game 3. Oh yeah, this is when, Patrick said that he liked, cheeseburgers as well. So this is what I called.
All right. We got overs, all overs. This is not like financial TV where like green could mean bad for somebody else. It's all great because we like points. We're just getting started here on Game Day View. Coming up, the Lombardi Trophy is so close. We're making the case for why any of the 4 remaining teams could make it to Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans. Plus, our absolute favorite player props for Championship Sunday. Stick around. You're watching Game Day View presented by Caesar Sportsbook.
NFL Game Day View is brought to you by Caesars Sportsbook. New users can bet $1 to boost their next 10 bets by 100%. Must be 21 or older. See Caesars.com/promos for full terms.
What's up with it? Yeah, everything's smooth. I'm on the field right now. Now, I've been thinking about a guest performance. Damn.
You can watch the Apple Music Super Bowl 59 halftime show featuring Kendrick Lamar with SZA and others February 9th on Fox. As for our show, it's time for Make the Case, which is not a reference to a certain Canadian's legal team, which needs to stop doing it. Let's dive into these championship matchups some more and play some fill in the blank, guys. Buffalo is trying to go back to the Super Bowl for the first time since the 90s, Greg. The Bills will win if blank happens.
If they can get pressure on Patrick Mahomes with just 4 down linemen. It's the old recipe. It's obvious, and it's true, and it's what stands out to me from the first matchup that they had this season. The Bills got more pressure than the Chiefs did, despite blitzing far less. I don't know if it was a matchup thing. I think this 4-man pass rush, I talked about Greg Rousseau before, has actually underperformed at times this year, and yet when they're at their best, Ed Oliver, he'll give you a lot of problems. I think Von Miller is playing better at the end of the season. I mentioned Rousseau before, and this Chiefs offensive line has been very up and down. You do not want to have to send extra defenders at Patrick Mahomes like the Bills were forced to do a week ago against Lamar Jackson. That was them kind of getting out of what they do, get pressure with 4, and they can win.
All right, let's flip it to the other side, Cynthia. The Chiefs will win if what happens?
They can force Josh Allen to get uncomfortable and throw in uncomfortable situations. One of the recipes for this team this season that has worked out so well is not turning the ball over. Now, if you force Josh Allen to throw in uncomfortable situations, perhaps if they're not winning or if it's a close game or if they feel like there's some sort of time constraint, this could be a recipe for a crucial turnover. It would be crucial for the Chiefs defense. Now, in the first matchup, Spencer Brown was not playing, and we saw that what happens there is a little bit more pressure. Spencer Brown has actually been the best right tackle at limiting pressure on passing down. So if you're going to force Josh Allen to throw, perhaps you're going to have to look a little bit elsewhere because he is also huge. He's like 6'8", and he's all of 6'8". So it's not like it's going to be an easy task.
All right, let's go over to the NFC, Greg. The upstart Commanders will win if this happens.
I'm not rooting for this, but if Jalen Hurts just squeezes the ball a little too tight, and I mean 2 things by that. Number one.
What?
Number one is he's just holding on to it, and he's not making decisions. And people mentioned last week, his time to throw was one of his best all year. Yeah, that's because he never threw it. He just kept taking sacks that were over 4 seconds long. It would have been much higher if he was making quicker decisions. And when he makes quick decisions, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the league. And when he holds on to the ball, not so much. And then when I say too tight, I also mean just like that the team is tight. That the crowd, you fall behind in the game, that they're expected to win, and maybe you're not playing the loose type of game that you need your leader, Jalen Hurts, to play.
All right, well, let's cheer that crowd up, Cynthia. If Philly wins, if they
don't hold the ball too tight. Just kidding. I'm looking at this one, and they get pressure on Jaden Daniels in both the run and pass game. Sam Cosmi not playing in this one. Talked about a right tackle this time. Going to talk about right tackle in this game as well. If you can keep Jaden Daniels in his rookie mode, meaning not being able to see exactly what the defense is throwing at him, not understanding false leverages, meaning is it man, is it zone? If you pressure him to have to throw too fast or he can't scramble, you're going to get some pressure on him, and that's going to be the path forward for the Eagles.
All right, there's the path ahead for all 4 teams, so congratulations. You can win if all those things happen. It's time for Expert Playmakers, presented by Intuit TurboTax. Let's do a little this guy or that guy with some star players, Greg. Who's going to have more passing touchdowns on Sunday? Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes?
Okay, I'm going to go Allen. He had the edge over the course of the season. I know he could get it with his legs.
That's what I'm thinking about.
But I think the Chiefs are going to be ready for that. And the Chiefs are a great rush defense, and they know that that's how Josh Allen and the Bills want to get it done in the red zone. So I will go with Josh Allen. It's been a better passing team overall. It's been more explosive over the course of the season.
All right, Cynthia, who will have more total touchdowns in this one, passing and rushing combined? Jaden Daniels or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts here. Why? A tush push is almost a guarantee. And if looking at where you can exploit this defense, well, the secondary has some areas where you could make a nice mismatch with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert. There's just a lot of different pass-catching options in this one.
All right, this one's for me. More touchdowns, James Cook or Kareem Hunt? And I'm going on the other side of what Greg says because I think Josh Allen will play hero ball and have rushing touchdowns in this one, which will keep James Cook, who's the all-time leader, tied for single-season touchdowns in Buffalo. I'm going to go with Kareem Hunt because I think he'll get more opportunities and won't get vultured by his quarterback. Let's go back to Greg here. More receiving yards Sunday, Scary Terry or A.J. Brown?
I have to go with Scary Terry, who actually isn't the leading receiver for Washington this offseason, but he's very close, and he's been excellent all season long. He has such a high target share. When Jaden Daniels is throwing the ball, he's looking for number 17. It's a great secondary, and yet he's made plays against the Eagles this year. Terry McLaurin, he can do it all, but he's the contested catch god. So even if he's not open, he is going to make that grab against a cornerback on the Eagles.
Yeah, such a great season. So glad to see him finally with not just a viable quarterback, a really good quarterback. Speaking of really good, Cynthia, is Saquon Barkley good? Well,
yes.
Okay, so we've established that Saquon is good, so we're going to have to make it a little more difficult for him in this guy or that guy. Saquon Barkley have more rushing yards than the entire Washington Commanders team.
You're saying the word rushing yards,
yes,
not receiving yards by a running back. Yes, the answer is Saquon Barkley will have more rushing yards than all of the Washington Commanders. You say rude?
Yeah.
Super rude.
We got Jaden Daniels involved. We got Austin Eckler.
Yeah, he's going to catch some.
Brian Robinson. You just add them all
also,
up.
You know what
look
he
at this
did
guy
to your
running down the
Rams?
field by himself.
It's all about them explosive runs, baby, those 10-plus yarders. Saquon Barkley, he has so many rushes that are at least 10 yards, like more than double the next closest guy, man. I just think he could easily get this.
Yeah, and he could also wave goodbye like that, or maybe late in the game he slides down and saves it for one more game in New Orleans. Speaking of one more, last one here. Who has more receptions Sunday, Khalil Shakir or Xavier Worthy? I think Xavier Worthy has a nice game, but in terms of receptions, I'm going Khalil Shakir, mainly because they get the short passing game involved. The Chiefs have had an up-and-down run defense this year in the playoffs. They've been solid against the run. I think that Khalil Shakir kind of becomes an extension of the run game, and they get him involved. Get a lot of options and a lot of targets for Khalil Shakir.
He's like Cole Beasley plus, his old buddy Cole Beasley, like who Josh Allen loves to look to. So it's that plus a little more.
Patrick, would you say it was more yards? Would you have Worthy or would you have Shakir? I love the receptions call, but if it was yards, would you switch it?
Yeah, I feel more likely that Xavier Worthy's going to pop one, but
Xavier with the yak, baby.
Yeah, just.
But I'm with you. Shakir with the number of receptions, but maybe Worthy with that yak factor could have more yards.
Yeah, but both of those guys can do some work with the ball in their hands. Still can't wait to see all of these games, and we got to pick them. We're going to do that coming up. And Jaden Daniels is going to be the first rookie starting quarterback, maybe to make a Super Bowl. We're diving in to who the difference makers are going to be for the Commanders and Eagles. You're watching Game Day View, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Got a matchup between teams in the division, so let's look back at both times the Eagles played the Commanders. The first place in the East on the line in Week 11. 3rd and 3 from the 23. There goes Saquon Barkley into the end zone. The Eagles would win 26-18. They would stay in first place in the East, and we'd skip ahead to Week 16. The Eagles were doing pretty well. First quarter, already leading 7-0. 2nd and 20. Hurts keeping it himself on a design run for 13 yards. Problem is he got his head smashed into the ground. Tried to convince the official he was okay. He was not. He would miss not just the rest of this game, but another game after that as he gets the hit to the head. And so into the game, would not come Jalen Hurts. They would go to the backup quarterback. But let's not talk about that. Let's talk about Jaden Daniels. He hits Terry McLaurin there to pick up 10 yards with a 35-yard line, trailing 33-28. Same score later on, less than a minute and 6. Jaden keeping it himself. 1st and 10. After that big 12-yard game, he led the team in rushing yards for the second straight week. 5 plays later, 10 seconds to go in the game. Touchdown to Jamison Crowder. Graham Weinstein went nuts. Touchdown, Washington! The Commanders came back to win it 36-33 after 5 turnovers. And so now we're all set for round 3 of this matchup between the Commanders and the Eagles. The stakes are as high as ever. Let's talk some players to watch. Who do we watch on offense, Cynthia?
I'm going with the easy one here, and that's Jaden Daniels. Why? Well, he's just setting rookie records left and right. One of them that I really think is interesting in this matchup is how well he's done against pressure, against the blitz. Those aren't necessarily the same thing. What we've seen from him in his ability to scramble, he makes great decisions. He keeps his head about him. In fact, he might not even know how big of a moment this is. I don't even know if he's had time to process it, right? He hasn't had those years in the league thinking about, hey, if I could just make it to the NFC Championship game just this once, right? Like, so perhaps that's something that will work well and work in his favor, especially because it's against a familiar opponent. So I'm really interested to see if the moment is too big or if they can kind of center him and keep him doing the things we've been seeing him do all season long.
Well, you said you're going for obvious names. We have to talk about Saquon Barkley as
Yes.
my offensive player to watch, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret that the mainstream media doesn't want you to know. The success rate for the Eagles' rushing attack hasn't been that great for the last month. It really started in that Commanders game. If you remember, had some big runs early, and everyone said, oh, Jalen Hurts left, and then it didn't work that well, and that's fine. But their blocking wasn't great for him. And if you look at the success rate really over his last 4 games, and this even includes the playoff game, it's down significantly from where it was the rest of the season. Now they're hitting the explosives, and if he goes for 70 or 80, it doesn't really matter. But I do think it's interesting against a rush defense that's struggled all season. If the Commanders can prevent the 4s, the 5s, the 6 that set up easy situations to pass on 3rd down, then they will have a chance in this game. And for the last few weeks, whether it's the Rams or even the Commanders defense for much of that game, they actually have been stopping Saquon for 1-yard gains, 2-yard gains. Usually the dam breaks because he's one of the best players of all time, but that's the best you can hope for, is just stopping him getting 1- and 2-yard gains throughout the course of the game.
Yeah, it's important to be consistent because when you're not, it doesn't work out. And one thing was consistent early on this season, Zach Ertz was doing basically nothing. But then he got to Philadelphia, he looked across the sideline, and he saw Nick Sirianni. And that has pushed Zach Ertz to score 7 touchdowns since then, all inspired by spite. He walks off the field, gets in an altercation with the head coach of the Eagles, a franchise that he scored a game-winning touchdown in the Super Bowl for, and since then he's been on fire. He had 5 targets against the Lions. He caught all 5 of them. He had a touchdown in that game, and I think you got to watch him, especially on 3rd downs. This is not a meme. Like, Jaden Daniels is trusting his tight end, and he's making plays. So, yeah, I think you should watch for Zach Ertz in this matchup. Let's switch over to the defenses now. Who do you have your eye on, Cynthia?
Frankie Louvu. Why? Because all quarterbacks should have their eye on him, but specifically Jalen Hurts. Why? Because of his 8 sacks, it just came on 29 pressures. That 31% pressure to sack ratio, or sack to pressure ratio, is the 2nd highest in the National Football League. Frankie Louvu has been a big reason why this defense has actually had a nice up and to the right trajectory this season. He just keeps playing better and better. This is a very Dan Quinn-like guy. It matches him very, very well. I think this will be one to watch in this matchup.
I am also going to talk about a Commanders player who was acquired in a trade. It was Marshawn Lattimore, and the last thing you might remember about him was Mike Evans really getting the better of him in the wild card round. Yet last week, you didn't see a lot of him on the screen. And you mentioned our friend Bram Weinstein, who covers the Washington Commanders, came on the NFL Daily podcast, and he thought Lattimore had his best game as a Commander by far. I decided to go back. I looked at some of the numbers, watched some of the tape, and he was moving well and seemed to be back in the flow. He was coming off of a hamstring injury. He seems to be fully healthy, and this is the matchup that they got him for. A.J. Brown in a big spot. A.J. Brown has haunted this Commanders team over the last few years. Lattimore has the physicality to try to match him in the cold, so keep an eye on Lattimore. That is the matchup to watch.
Yeah, regardless, it could be a tough matchup, but he gives the defense so many more options to try to take that matchup one-on-one. I will also take a former Saint who hates Dennis Allen and go with C.J. Gardner-Johnson because when they brought C.J. Gardner-Johnson back, they knew that they needed help. They had to make changes in the secondary. Then they go and draft 2 very good rookies, and this defense has been spectacular, especially late in the season. They lost to the Commanders, not just happening because Jalen Hurts left the game, but C.J. Gardner-Johnson got ran from that game late. I think it would be a lot tougher to score that touchdown with less than 10 seconds to go if C.J. had remained in the game, so he would be my defensive player to watch.
I mean, poor DA might be a huge game day view fan. He's just turning on the program and just gets a wild stray from Patrick.
I don't know. I was going to ask how many former Saints players like DA, but you are current. That was my question.
Is it a stray? We go from talking about Marshawn Lattimore to C.J. Gardner-Johnson. It felt like the obvious segue to make. Let's go to over-under as we get to the point total for the Commanders and Eagles. Right now, it's at 47.5, and a lot like the AFC game, I like the over here. I've got 52 points, which makes 47 feel like not at all a problem, but we've seen this Washington Commanders team go up and down the field against everybody. This Eagles defense is good. I don't think they're going to hold them to that much, and of course, I believe the Eagles can score as well, so I got the over.
This one was close for me. I have it at 49, but that is over, so we're gonna stay consistent. I don't think the passing games will go as crazy, so it's more of a running game for both teams. But you think about the Eagles secondary, you think about the struggles the Eagles passing attack has had on offense, and I think it'll be close. But right at the very end, you're sweating it out, and it's a last-minute field goal to get you over.
Well, I have a 50-point game, so that too is over. We're a meme of overs, an over meme, in fact. I'm looking at this one, and I think that what we have here is a Cliff Kingsbury situation where he's done a good job of looking at past teams that have had success against the teams he plays and kind of just taking those plays and making them happen for his team. And then we know Saquon is at least going to have 1 touchdown. So there we go on that side too.
Yeah, meme away, fans of the under. And also,
yeah, under fans, come at us.
Yeah, somebody's going to be like, yeah, that's it, because I don't like points. When we come back here on Game Day View, we're making our picks for who's winning. The Bills and the Chiefs. Is this the year Josh Allen finally beats Patrick Mahomes? A few people sitting up here, maybe hope so, but like Thanos, perhaps KC is inevitable. Find out what we think coming up next. Chiefs and Bills for the AFC Championship. Let's look back at when they played back in Week 11. The quarterbacks greeting each other, acknowledging both of their prowesses. You can see the prowess of Patrick Mahomes here, rolling to his right, hitting Noah Gray in the back of the end zone to cut into that lead with around 7 minutes to go in the ball game. Let's fast forward to 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Mahomes waiting for a chance to get the ball back. Sean McDermott says, hey, Josh, pump fake to Ty Johnson, and then just go full nuclear destructive quarterback fabricated in a lab mode. 26-yard touchdown run, and that would do it. The Kansas City Chiefs had their first loss of the season. The Buffalo Bills won their 6th straight. The Chiefs fell to 9-1. They would only lose one more game, which was an asterisk because they weren't trying. And now these two teams are back at it. It's time for Seize the Season, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Looking at the first touchdown scorer odds, yeah, it's the guy we just saw going into the end zone, Josh Allen, then James Cook, and then a host of Chiefs led by Travis Kelce. So now, folks, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time for us to make our picks in the AFC Championship game between the Bills and the Chiefs. Will Josh Allen and Buffalo finally get past the Bills that did to the Super Bowl, get past the Chiefs? Or will KC's quest for a three-peat continue? Cynthia, what happens?
I have the Kansas City Chiefs 25-24. This is about as close as they come. When I'm looking at this matchup, I'm looking at the defense for the Bills because both quarterbacks have been playing really, really well. Both quarterbacks are absolute first-ballot Hall of Famers, but they get to play each other's defenses, right? They don't have to play actual.
That's true.
Hey, hey. But I'm looking at what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do in the playoffs, and the playoffs specifically against the Bills. He's undefeated against the Bills when he and Josh Allen have matched up in the postseason, obviously not in the regular season. When I'm looking at what could happen in this one, though, I'm worried about those missing potential pieces. I haven't seen Taylor Rapp yet. I have not seen Christian Benford. That is a problemo when you have 87 and 15 and also Xavier Worthy, and also all the other people who could potentially have even just one catch to make it a big difference in this game. So by the slimmest of margins, I have Patrick Mahomes returning to try to win his 3rd Super Bowl in a row.
Look at old Cynthia. You know,
Old?
25. Not
Excuse
old.
me?
I'm just saying you're being sneaky here. 1 point win with a 1.5. She's threading that needle.
You called me a coward earlier, so the model's being a coward. I'm not trying to be a coward. It's just
so
what the model does.
I'm going to be nice to the model. Eventually, the model will consume all of us. I also
Probably.
have a Chiefs win. Mine is by significantly more points relatively to Cynthia, 29-23, because I saw something. We looked back and saw those Chiefs-Bills postseason highlights. You saw Tyreek Hill running into the end zone by himself. I'm not making this comparison, but I saw something with Xavier Worthy against the Houston Texans and the trust that Patrick Mahomes had for him. Cynthia mentioned the injuries in the secondary for the Buffalo Bills, who do have kind of a problem in dealing with speed. Xavier Worthy, of course, has it. And I've seen this maturation of Xavier Worthy in the offense, and also Andy Reid's perception of how to utilize Xavier Worthy makes me believe that the Chiefs, yes, it's boring, are going right back to the Super Bowl.
See, he used the word maturation,
Yes.
better than old.
Okay.
Just saying.
No one ever accused me of being mature, but I am definitely old, and I've been around long enough to see this Bills team knocking on the door just over and over. And sometimes in sports, it's your time to break through. This is the Buffalo Bills' time, 32-30. They get it done. It's not just because I picked them before the season to win the Super Bowl, but that doesn't hurt. Let's just Greg it up all the way to New Orleans. Let's go back through these games, especially this one in the divisional round, where Josh Allen and this offense was playing at a level they were ready to go win a Super Bowl. And yet, I say this is the best offense the Bills have ever had. It's the most points they've ever scored in this stretch. They have made it to the divisional round or further for 5 straight years. They've been in the top 5 of point differential for 5 straight years, averaging 12 wins a year throughout this time. And yet this is the best team, the best position team to beat the Chiefs because they're like the Chiefs. They can win any type of game. They're diverse. They can run. They can beat you any sort of way, and they don't make mistakes on either side of the ball. I think their coaches are better. I think the quarterback's better. It's their time. Let's go, Bills.
All right. Well, Greg's got the Bills folks fired up. That was Seize the Season, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Bet just $1. Double boost your next 10 bets up to $25. Terms and conditions do apply. Must be 21 plus. Folks, don't miss any of the action this weekend with NFL Plus. Stream the entire NFL postseason, including every playoff game and Super Bowl 59 live on mobile. Subscription required for NFL Plus. Visit plus.nfl.com in order to acquire the terms. It's time for More or Less, as we will acquire some foam fingers and get some player props for this game. Cynthia, will Josh Allen have more or less than 277 total yards?
Total yards?
Total.
More. We told, all of us agreed that it's more because, we just wanted to come at these less people. But that would follow that more yards equals more points. In this game, I think you're going to have to see Josh Allen use his legs quite a bit. You actually do typically see him do it against the Chiefs more often and in the postseason. So 2 trends here align and alongside some passing yards as well. So more.
Another quarterback also playing in this game, Greg, tends to kind of go on running journeys in the postseason, even on gimpy legs. How many rushing yards? Let's go more or less 22.5 rushing yards for Patrick Mahomes. 25.5 rushing yards.
I'm going to go less. It's partly based on what I saw a week ago against the Texans. They did such a good job not going past Mahomes, some of the defensive tackles almost waiting for him to scramble. This was his one successful scramble here in the regular season, but last week it was one of his worst games as a scrambler. And I just think the Bills have lost in the same sort of way to Mahomes so many times. Aren't they sick of it? Won't they just have a good defensive game plan to not let Mahomes scramble? Because when he scrambles, it's only when he absolutely needs to rip your heart out, and they're sick of it. This is not the time.
Do you know how many defenses would love to stop Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah.
I know, but the Texans actually did it. They had the blueprint. Just follow what they did.
It reminds me of that Lou Williams press conference where they couldn't stop Kevin Durant. And it's like, hey, I promise we tried. that was the goal. The problem is it's Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, we weren't trying. We were just going to let him.
Yeah. Going up against Travis Kelce, also something you want to try. At 68.5 receiving yards is the number Cynthia outlined. 14 consecutive playoff games. He has gone above the number. Yeah, I'm going to go more. And I feel like 68 feels easy. I'm thinking up into the 70s or 80s more for Travis Kelce, which will also mean some shots of his girlfriend as well in the AFC Championship.
More shots of them. More.
We'll get that number up. No, just kidding. All right, when we come back, we're making our picks in the NFC, Commanders or Eagles. How worried should Eagles fans be about Jalen Hurts' knee? And is anyone bold enough to take Jaden's squad? One soul is. We'll tell you who after this quick break.
Barkley time? Oh, it has to be. He's got 118 yards and adding to it. There goes Barkley into the clear, through the snow, all the way home. He's hit another home run against the Rams. And this one might send him to the championship game.
It got dicey after that, Mike, but they did make it. It's time for Home Field Advantage presented by Zillow. Eagles and Commanders at the link. Philly has lost only one game at home all season, but Jaden Daniels has proven to be special. Who wins the football game, Cynthia?
Philadelphia, but only by 4 points. That guy is Saquon Barkley. You're right, the mainstream media does want to say that Saquon's just the king and there's no asterisks there. However, it's all about those elusive and explosive runs, and this is where he really succeeds. Woo. It only takes one to bust for a touchdown. And he did it twice against the Rams last week, and it was cold there. When looking at the opportunity against Washington, yes, they are good at not forcing missed tackles or not missing tackles. The problem is you have to be close enough for that metric to even count. I don't know if they're going to be close enough to get after this guy. Saquon Barkley knows what's at stake. Saquon Barkley has been brought to this team specifically to get them to the big game, and I think that this is where he absolutely shines. But again, just 4 points. I don't think it's a runaway victory.
I am going to cheat and look at Cynthia's paper and also get a 4-point Eagles win.
I like
28-24 in this one, because also a very good football player who hasn't forgotten how to play football is A.J. Brown. I still have faith in this Eagles passing game. And Greg mentioned historically the success that he has had against this team. There he is scoring a touchdown. We've had pass interference calls against Marshawn Lattimore earlier on in this season. He also had a drop last week against the Rams that could have necessarily changed that game. I don't think you can play defense against A.J. Brown saying, well, I hope maybe he drops the ball. I think that he makes the plays. I think Devontae and Dallas Goedert make plays. When those three are around, it's very tough to beat this team with their starting quarterback. Greg, I've got our birds flying to the Super Bowl in New Orleans.
So we all agree on this one that the Commanders will cover that 6 points. If we're going to have it be close, I went back and forth all week. At first, I thought Eagles are just more talented.
Come on.
Yeah.
And if I don't know who's going to win, no, let's just Greg it up. Let's take the Commanders to win this game. Because
that makes me like my pick.
You look at these two coaching staffs, everyone agrees, that this is going to be close. Which coaching staff do you trust making smart decisions? Which quarterback do you trust making smart decisions in a close game in the fourth quarter? Is it Nick Sirianni just letting the clock run out at the end of the first half last week, or making some crazy play call, or becoming the main character? Is it Jalen Hurts making quick decisions in the biggest of moments? Or is it Dan Quinn on fourth downs? He's taking Doug Peterson's old lead with Howie Roseman back in the day on the Eagles, and they're always going for fourth down, and they're always getting it. Who's calmer under pressure? It's Jaden Daniels at quarterback. Sometimes it's not just about the depth charts. Obviously, the Eagles are more talented, but there is something really special about this Commanders team. I think they're going to be playing loose. I think they're going to be ready to win, and I think they win a tight one.
See, there it is. A little insight as our teams were eliminated last week. Greg still believes in magic. Cynthia and I are doubtful about the existence of magic right about now. Let's look to the player props. In the conference championships in total, Jaden Daniels going over 278 total yards. Saquon Barkley, 128.5. Terry looking at a slim number, 64.5 receiving yards. Josh Allen, 1.5 passing touchdowns. And Patrick Mahomes with 252.5 passing yards. Let's take a look at all of the games this weekend. When it comes for who we think will pass for the most yards, we're all going with different guys. Cynthia, you think it's a certain quarterback in Kansas City.
Yeah, there's some magic there with Patrick Mahomes and third down. But also, they have this formula. You talk about Xavier Worthy. What are they doing differently with him? Well, they're throwing him shorter passes. His average depth of target has been basically cut in half. And you know what still counts? Yak, baby. That counts for Patrick Mahomes. So between Worthy, between Hollywood, between 87, between all of the different pieces, DeAndre Hopkins, I'm with you on that as well. I just think that this is more of a pass-heavy offense, and that's why I think he has the most. Also, I like sitting like this now. Who knew? I've just been in this chair all season long, and now I'm just like, oh, this is more comfortable. It's better.
I like me some Josh Allen this week. I mean, to me, he's been the most consistent just passer of these three throughout the course of the season, so I'm taking Allen.
Yeah, mine is just pure game script. I think the Commanders get behind, and Jaden's going to have to be throwing a whole lot. Let's move on to who we think will have the most receiving yards this weekend. Greg, you're going off the menu.
Ooh.
I am. I'm going De'Ami Brown. I put up the tape of the last couple weeks, and you watch what De'Ami Brown has been doing, where he's led the Washington Commanders in receiving yards this season. And it's not just like one game he pops up. 2 games in a row where he's very steady, and you see the type of routes that he's running.
Yo, Brian Branch caught him from behind, though.
That Brian Branch is amazing. That catch was amazing. That throw was amazing. You have him working the outside, but he can also do the crossers. He can also beat you with some yak. And I don't think it's fluky. A lot of suddenness when you watch his routes coming in and out of breaks. Maybe sometimes it's the guy that you don't see coming, De'Ami Brown.
All right, some De'Ami Brown love. Let's flip over to the defense. Who's going to have the most sacks this weekend? We all picked different guys, but I'm going with the guy who I'm trying to, again, retroactively give a Super Bowl MVP to, and that is Chris Jones, who, like most, it's going to be easier to rush the passer from the edge. We'll see how much Spags allows him to do that, or if he's just going to soak up attention on the interior. But wherever he plays, he makes plays. I've got Chris Jones the most sacks this week.
Well, I picked George Karlaftis because you saw 3 sacks last week because of all the attention that was given to Chris Jones. So I kind of drafted off yours, but whatever, I'm still taking it.
Yeah, and Patrick said, I believe in Magic. I mean, I believe in Magic Johnson. He's going to be very worried about this Jalen Carter matchup.
Oh, there it is.
Because it might take Magic to stop this man, Jalen Carter, against a backup without Sam Cosmi out there. That is the matchup that worries me the most as someone who just picked the Commanders.
And a great opportunity, if Greg's right and Washington wins, to just go look at Magic's Twitter account and see what tweet we get when the Commanders are going to the Super Bowl. Still to come, we're talking some of our favorite prop bets for Championship Sunday. Who's ready to ball out when the pressure's on? Pressure makes diamonds, right? It also busts pipes. You're watching Game Day View, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. We'll be back with our picks next. Get set for Championship Sunday with a 6-hour edition of Game Day Morning starting Sunday, 9 a.m. Eastern. Gerald McCoy going one-on-one with former Super Bowl MVP Von Miller as he prepares to get the Bills trying to get back in that big game. Plus, live guests including Darryl Green, Jim Kelly, Doug Williams, Dante Hall, and actor Eric Stonestreet all Sunday at 9 a.m. Eastern. It's time to write this down as we get some predictions for Championship Sunday. Why don't we have the man who is on fire right now and write this down, Greg Rosenthal.
5 straight write this down, 8 out of 9, and so I'm doubling down and I'm making it even harder on myself. Jaden Daniels goes over 55.5 rushing yards. I think he's going to need to run to win, and then you just pair that with my Commanders' victory. So it's not even covering the 6 points. It's just a flat-out Commanders win. You smash them together. We're rolling the dice, and we're going to New Orleans with it. Let's go.
What's the expression? It's like pigs get fed and hogs get slaughtered. I think you're going for the slaughter. I'm going to stay with the Commanders, but I'm going with Austin Eckler and his receiving yard number, over 23.5. That could happen in the first quarter. I am fine taking this one. I love this opportunity. If you get that Jalen Carter pressure, if you get pressure from Zach Bond anywhere, where is he going to look? Well, it's going to be Austin Eckler. And those receiving yards, Austin Eckler is good for them, for sure.
That's one catch. Him just rolling down the sidelines and bowling over people.
And we also have talked about Saquon Barkley's ability to make long plays in the run game. He can also do it in the pass game, which is why I look at Jalen Hurts' total being at 181.5 passing yards, and I think he's going to go north of that number because we saw Mekhi Becton get called for that illegal man downfield. That could have been a big gain in the screen game. This team can really make plays in the passing game. They just haven't really needed to. I think they need to this week, and I think he goes over 181.5.
We all picked the NFC game. That's very funny. Okay, so we need to do one AFC one.
Give us a free one, Cynthia.
A free one? We're going with a Josh Allen rushing touchdown. I know he didn't say so, but he also, that's hogwash. We're going to go with Josh Allen rushing touchdown.
I mean, disrespectful. I'm the king
You
right
called
now.
me
Write
old.
it down. I did not. I'm going to be living
Patrick's
that
the
all
king
week.
of it. Patrick has the best
I did win
record.
this year. Enjoy the games, folks. We have fed pigs. We have slaughtered them. We have washed them.
And now I'm old.
Enjoy the football.
I'm old.
Thanks
I need
for
a nap.
watching Game Day View.
I need a nap. I'm old.